Hey, girl. Appreciate everybody who's here worshiping with us today, man. Just welcome to Temple Baptist Church and that we're here in this space together. And I want to be a little bit transparent with you this morning as we begin. You know, God comes to us at different points and times in our lives and reveals things to us. And I want you to one of the things that with this live streaming, it's a blessing and a curse. One, it's a blessing, you know, it's out there for the world to see, but it's a curse because I get to look at myself and I review my sermons every week that I preach. And Carol said a couple of weeks ago, I had a sermon where my energy was down. And so I went and looked at the sermon as the message on hope. And I'm sitting there in my office watching my sermon, and I was not feeling hopeful. Man, I was feeling hopeless. And I was watching myself. I said, oh my goodness, Scott. And no one else in the building, so I'm being very verbal. I said, come on, is that the best you got? And I'm sort of slapping myself like this, you know, back and forth. And said, come on. You know, it's like after a basketball game. I remember I watched one game. I had the same feeling. I had 2 points, 1 rebound, and 5 fouls. And I felt terrible. And I'm watching my sermon, and I said, God, help me to be better than this. Help me to do more than this, because, man, I've been following the script. I've been very careful with what I'm saying because it's going to be out there forever because everybody's going to be watching whoever brings it up. And so I've sort of just, and this sermon on hope, I walked away feeling hopeless. And I said, this is not who I am. You know, in my dissertation, my 200-something page dissertation, there are like 2 sentences that make the whole thing worth reading. It's a guy named Bishop William Quell, and he said, is preaching the preparing of a sermon and delivering that? He said, no, son, no. Preaching is the preparation of a preacher and delivering of all that of heart and soul and mind and all that he is. And so I'm going to try to be less safe. I'm going to go further out there. I'm going to try to be myself each and every Sunday morning as I stand here before you and give you everything I've got. You know, because when I go into game time before the game, we would get crazy and we'd high-five and run out of the locker room and we'd play our hearts out. And I want to try to do that here with you all Sunday mornings. Okay? Is that all right? All right. We're going to have fun. And today we're talking about joy. All right? Joy. All right. Joy. Say with me. Joy. Joy. All right. Jump for joy. Say with me. Jump for joy. All right. I want you all to be jumping for joy when we walk out here. All right. And feel the joy. And know the joy. And experience the joy. About a year ago, Carol and I witnessed joy of a very pure, amazing way that we had never seen it before. We had been on vacation for 2 weeks over the summer, and Wesley was 3 at the time, and Lacey was 1 year old. And we came back home, and we ran out the car. Marissa brought the kids over, and I went to Wesley's side to get Wesley out of the car, and Carol went to Lacey's side getting Lacey out of the car. And when she picked little Lacey up out of the car, Lacey squealed. And then she started laughing and crying at the same exact time. And she was like, you know, it was so amazing to watch this innocent display of joy that she was so happy to see Grandma, and she couldn't verbalize it. She didn't even know what was happening to her. All she could was experience this just joy of having Grandma back home. All right, well, you know, Grandpa wanted some of that, right? All right. So I went over. Didn't happen for Grandpa. I don't get that, man. I don't get that. Didn't get the same kind of reaction. In fact, I think she started crying. She wanted Grandma back, so I had to hand her back off. But joy. But joy, if it's only an external thing, it is nothing more than happiness. You see, joy is a noun. A noun is a person, place, or thing. And joy is what we experience, the excitement, the gladness, the great pleasure, the delight in the showing of expression of that feeling. See, in happiness, happy is an adjective. Happy describes a noun. And happy is what describes us when things are happening to us that are very lucky and fortunate. And we experience happy based upon what is going on around us and is taking place with us. You know, there's a universal saying that is absolutely true. Absolutely true. It's happy wife, happy life. And not only is it absolutely true, it is universally true around the world, because our CEG Chinese students, they knew that saying as well. Happy wife, happy life. And so the husband goes out of the way to make his wife happy. And if the wife is happy, the husband is happy because she makes his life happy. So everyone's happy, right? Happy, 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 everywhere. But happy is based upon what is going on around us, our circumstances. It is on a shallow, peripheral level. But joy is what takes place inside of us despite what is going on all around us. You know, happiness is the wind that comes and goes, but joy is the mountain that stays and stands strong despite the winds that blow against it. Happy is external. Joy is internal. Happy is fleeting. Joy is forever there. And on that Christmas morning, when the angels came to the shepherds, the angels said, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people." Good news of great joy. Well, how do we make that transition from shallow to deep? How do we move from happy to joy? How do we move from that which is external, that is peripheral, to that which is so deeply internal that carries us through all the situations we face, from simple happiness to great joy? You know, around here, as we're always talking about having spiritual conversations with people, you know, talking with them, and having spiritual conversations to find out where they are at on their spiritual journeys, you know, where they're at in their relationship with God or no relationship with God. But part of the reason I have spiritual conversations is not only to find out where they are at on their journeys, but to help move their focus, help them to consider, move their eyes from the temporary to the eternal, from the everyday to God, and have them to consider the spiritual more so than the physical. And in our passage today, Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, is having a spiritual conversations with a whole bunch of Christians in northern Turkey who are getting persecuted because of their faith, because of their belief in Jesus. And because their persecution is so great and is putting such a burden upon them, Peter realizes that the truth that he has to get across to them, the conversation he has to have with them, has to be so great and so impactful that it helps them lift them above and rise them above what they're personally experiencing. Moving from the pain in their physical present to the joyful hope of an eternal future. And because Peter has personally experienced Jesus' joy, and because he knows what that joy is, he wants to try to convey it to the believers so that they can experience and know the joy that he knows. And he starts off by writing in his letter to them that our joy is grounded foundationally in our new birth. As he writes in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. He writes, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In His great mercy, He has given us new birth into a living hope in our present through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead in the past." You know, grace is getting what we don't deserve, but mercy is receiving what we do not deserve. Right? Grace is getting what we don't deserve, but mercy is receiving what we do not deserve. You know, when a child disobeys their parents, they're punished. That's just natural, right? A child disobeys mom and dad, say, hey, don't do that. You know, don't hit your sister. Don't mess with your brother. Don't. And they do it, they disobey. And so in their disobedience, it's natural for a parent, they get punished. And so in our lives, as we relate to God, we've disobeyed God at different points in times in our lives. I know for me there's things I should have done that I didn't do, that God laid on my heart, said, Scott, do this, and I chose not to do them. I disobeyed God. There are other times that God has said, Scott, don't do this, and I went out and did it anyway. And I disobeyed God. You know, that's just part of our humanity, that we disobey God. And just like the child, you know, that we deserve, you know, to be disciplined, to be punished when you think about it. It's, you know, to be punished for being disobedient is just natural. But mercy is unnaturally being forgiving for a disobedience. And in God's great mercy, He has forgiven us, and in place of our punishment has given us birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. New birth. We have been born again. We were blind, but now we see. We were lost, but now we're found. We are caterpillars becoming butterflies. Because Jesus is alive. Say that with me. Jesus is alive. For some reason, I've been thinking about that more recently. That's an incredible statement for us to, first make, and for us to believe that is absolutely true. That Jesus Christ, born 2,000 years ago, the son of a carpenter, was beaten and killed on a cross, and then placed in the tomb, and then resurrected from the grave. And that same Jesus is still alive today. Jesus is alive. And if Jesus is alive, our joy is grounded in the new birth in Jesus. Our new birth means that no matter what happens to us today, we have the life of Jesus in us today. Our new birth means that no matter what happens to us tomorrow, that we have the life of Jesus in us tomorrow. And our new birth means that no matter what happens to us for all eternity, we will have the life of Jesus to take us home for all eternity. Peter says, and we're moved into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade, kept in heaven for you in your future, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. Jesus is alive. Say that with me. Jesus is alive. Man, He is. And our new birth is that which grounds us in this joy of Jesus. But it also leads to even greater joy. Verse 6. And Peter says, all right, in this the reality of your new birth, in this the reality that Jesus is alive, in this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. I've heard people tell me that they believe Christianity is a crutch. That Christianity is pie in the sky by and by. That we keep our eyes so focused on Jesus, and we sing praise songs and we worship Him and glorify Him and say, "Oh, come all you faithful to Bethlehem." That our eyes are so focused on Jesus that we are oblivious and don't take into account all that has taken place around us that is so hard. But Peter is a realist. He does not sugarcoat the pain. No, Peter admits that pain is real and suffering and grief is real. And from those families this morning who have lost loved ones from the tornadoes that tore through Kentucky, man, that grief is real. And Peter says, it's real to endure all kinds of trials and tribulations. It's so real. That's part of our being human. But Peter believes that our joy of our new birth is more profound than our pain. It has greater power and ability to impact us and give us what we need in life than the pain that we confront in life. You know, when we have baptisms here at the church, and you know, we baptize here and the water's filled, and we come together and we worship, and it's just an awesome service. And when I'm standing with the individuals who are to be baptized in the back and we're listening to the music, we have prayer. But then I talked to them. I said, remember this day. Remember this day. Step into this moment. Remember this day that you are walking closely with Jesus, that you are being obedient to Jesus, that you are following Jesus. Remember this day when you are giving your life fully and completely and totally to Him and being obedient to Him in baptism. So that when life is hard and it begins to crush you down, you can remember then the day that you followed Him and you were right there with Him. Man, our Christianity, our faith is not a crutch to prop us up. It is a crane that lifts us above and through any and everything that God and that life may throw at us. And Peter says, these trials and temptations have come so that your faith of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Trials and tribulations, they are testings. They test us mentally and physically and spiritually, and they push us. And I've seen people, and I've walked with people, and I myself have experienced suffering. And as I walk with people and they go through suffering, you can never go through suffering and trial and tribulations and stay where you are in your faith. Tribulations and trials and your suffering, they will either move you closer to God and your faith will become stronger and you'll become more real and genuine, authentic in your walk with God, or these sufferings will push you further away from God and you'll become bitter and broken, and you'll walk away from your faith. And I've seen people do both on both ends of the spectrum. But Peter says, our trials, they test us. They show who we are, but even beyond showing us who we are, they show us who we are becoming. And he says these trials are like the fire that refines gold. You know, gold was the most precious metal known at that period of time in history. But you would always find gold impure and mixed up with other metals, copper, tin, different things that you just have to separate it out from the gold. And so they would heat gold to its melting point, and then the gold would melt. And then after it melted, all these impurities, they would come and scrape off so that there would be pure gold that was left. And I want you to know that Jesus sees gold in you. Jesus sees gold in your life. And these trials and temptations and testings that we go through, they refine us, they purify us. The impurities come out of our lives and they're scraped off so that the gold that God has placed in us and created us for is there in us, and it can be seen and realized, and we can become fully who God has created us and called us to be in Him. But you know what? I hate trials. I don't know about you. I hate being refined. I hate testings. I hate the suffering. I hate things I've had to go through in life. And you know what? I'm probably going to hate the things that I will be going through in life as well. But God is doing a work in me. He sees gold in me that He's trying to bring forth to the service and take off the impurities and help me to become the man of God He's created me to be. And God sees gold in your life. And testings are hard and trials are hard. But it refines us. It purifies us. You see, the only way to grow in faith, and I wish it were other than this, but the only way to grow in faith is to be in a situation that if you don't exercise your faith, there's no way that you're going to make it through that situation. And the only way to learn the power of prayer is to be placed in such a position that you have to pray and pray and pray, because if you don't pray, you know you won't be able to persevere through it. And the only way to learn that God is faithful is for us to be in positions whereby that if God does not step in and do what only God can do, there's no way that anyone else can come up beside us and help us make it through. And just like fire reveals gold, life's trials refine us and bring praise and glory and honor to Jesus Christ, who is seen in us. You know, nothing reveals Jesus, and I mean this, absolutely nothing reveals Jesus greater and with greater clarity than Jesus being revealed in the life of a Jesus follower who's going through trials and tribulations. When a Christian is going through suffering, and those around this person see their faith, they hear their prayers, they sense their heart that Jesus is alive in this person, that Jesus who is alive in them. He is revealed and seen and glorified. In our new birth, which grounds our joy, leads to even greater joy, and is the first step of us being saved. Verse 8. It said, though you have not seen Him, you love Him. And even though you do not see Him now, you believe in Him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. The salvation of your souls. You see, our new birth is the first step. It's just the beginning of a journey that's going to take us through our entire life. And day by day, as we live our faith, as we live our lives, as we follow Jesus, as we go through trials and tribulations and difficulties and hard times, it increases our joy, and we experience the salvation of our souls. And the longer we walk with Jesus, the more we experience His joy of His heaven that He has in store for us. I remember growing up, there's a song we always would often sing in church. It's just Mom and Dad, when they would sing it, it's every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. Every day with Jesus, I love Him more and more. Jesus saves and keeps me, and He's the one I'm living for. Every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. Luke chapter 2, verse 8, the Christmas story. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. Angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, do not be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be scared. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you, and to you, and to you, and to you, and to me. And this one is called Christ the Lord. Christmas is joy because Jesus is joy. And the joy that Jesus brought to earth was meant for all people. But to receive Jesus' joy, you must first receive Jesus. Say, Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. Man, all that I am, all that I'll be, I give you all I am. I'm all in, Jesus. And receive His life and receive His joy and receive the future He has for you. But maybe you're a Christian, a believer, but man, the joy, life has been hard. It's pushed you. In some ways, it's almost broken you. And you forgot the joy. You've lost it. Your prayer is, Jesus, help me to lean into you. Give me your joy, Jesus, as you give yourself to me. I'm ready for it. I need it. I need you. And we receive the good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Jump for joy. Say with me, jump for joy. Here we go. Dear God, thank you for this day you've given us. Man, a day that we've never seen before, a day that we'll never, ever see again. And we live in this moment of time, this very second. And we have joy because of the breath that we have just breathed. We have joy because of our next breath that we will take. But the joy that we have is based on the fact that Jesus is alive. And because Jesus is alive, He lives in us. His joy is our joy. His life is our life. His future is our future. And one day we will walk home and He'll be there waiting for us. And we will experience joy forever and ever and ever. Dear God, thank you for your joy. And let it fill everything that we say and do this next week to bring us back next Sunday to celebrate the coming of the Christ child one last time before Christmas is here.